In a world that's moving at lightning speed, it is so easy to get lost. We see good, honest people get caught up in a story that just feels right, but ends up leading them somewhere terribly wrong. Today, we're going to dive into 5 of those stories and see what they can teach all of us. Now, the people we're about to meet, they're not foolish. Not at all. They're actually a lot like us. They're searching for some certainty, a little bit of hope, a bit of meaning in all the noise. And they did what most of us do. They trusted the voice that sounded the most confident. And that right there, that's the whole point. This isn't about looking at other people and shaking our heads. It's about realizing just how easily any one of us could get tangled up in a belief that isn't really ours, and the absolutely devastating price you can pay for it. So here's the big question we're really digging into. How can a simple idea, a story you just borrow from a stranger on a screen, have enough power to completely unravel a real, actual human life? We're going to look at 5 very different examples to try and figure that out. The way this is all framed, there are these common entry points, these doorways into modern misbelief. We're about to walk through 5 of them, and you'll see how a different kind of promise can lead to the exact same kind of pain. All right, so let's start with Izzy Rabinowitz. He's a school janitor in New York City. A good guy, quiet life, and it all revolved around his daughter. He wasn't out there looking for some get-rich-quick scheme. He just wanted to give her a better life. Then one night, scrolling on his phone, he stumbles across this charismatic crypto prophet on YouTube. And just listen to the language he's using. The prophet wasn't just talking about returns on investment. No, he was talking about justice, about faith, about good, honest people finally getting their win. He was mixing financial promises with spiritual ones, which made putting your money in feel like, well, an act of faith. And this is where it all comes crashing down. That huge, heartbreaking gap between the dream and the reality. Izzy poured his life savings, even took out a loan for this coin. He had this whole scene in his head of telling his daughter her student loans were gone. But it was a scam, a rug pull. The profit disappeared, the YouTube channel was deleted, and just like that, Izzy's money was gone. Okay, so let's walk through a totally different doorway now. This is Miriam Tannenbaum, a kind 46-year-old violin teacher. She wasn't just lonely, she was a true romantic. She believed in that deep, cosmic connection and was just so tired of relationships that felt, well, ordinary. And she thought she found the answer from an online soulmate guru. So here was the big rule, the one thing she had to follow. Everyone has one and only one destined partner. And if you settle for someone who's just good enough, you are actively blocking your true soulmate from ever finding you. Her job wasn't to search, it was just to wait and not interfere with destiny. And to find this one true soulmate, the guru gave her this super rigid, almost impossible checklist, the 3 signs test. A guy had to pass all 3 of these perfectly. And because of this, Miriam ended up rejecting kind, wonderful men over the years. Why? Because the connection didn't feel instant, or because she had one tiny little doubt. She was just following the rules, waiting for a kind of perfection that was never going to show up. This next one, man, this one is all about fear. Aaron Bloom was a brilliant programmer, and a really compassionate one too. He really wanted his work to help people. His biggest fear wasn't losing his job. It was becoming useless, having his life's work just mean nothing. And that fear made him the perfect target for a viral rumor about an AI apocalypse. I mean, can you just imagine hearing that? This terrifying prophecy, whispered in some blurry TikTok, convinced Aaron that everything he knew, everything he was good at, was about to become worthless. So he quit his great career to become a spiritual guide for this new AI era, preparing for a future that, well, it never came. All right, next up, we're heading to Chicago to meet Solomon Katz. For 30 years, this guy was more than just a grocer. He was the heart of his neighborhood. His shop was a community hub. He'd let people pay later if they were short. He saw himself as a caretaker. And then he sees this message from a super slick influencer, and it just gets under his skin. It made him feel ashamed of his simple, old-fashioned way of doing things. He got so scared he was going to lose everyone that he took out this massive loan to buy a high-tech scanner system. A system that turned out to be totally defective, drove his real customers away, and eventually cost him his business. So, for our last story, we meet Eli Perlman. This is a guy whose whole life was about serving his community at his synagogue. He was loyal, good-hearted, and he deeply admired his rabbi. Everything he did was guided by one question: is this good for the community? That was his North Star. And then he gets this anonymous letter, and it was so clever, so insidious. It twisted his greatest strength, his sense of duty, against him. Instead of going to the rabbi, the man he knew and trusted, the letter convinced him his real duty was to investigate quietly. So he started planting these little seeds of doubt, which grew into rumors, fractured the entire community, and in the end, forced a good man to resign. Wow. So there you have it. 5 completely different people, 5 totally different stories. We had a crypto promise, a soulmate fantasy, an AI prophecy, an influencer's lecture, and an anonymous whisper. But now let's look at the one thing they all had in common: the devastating real-world price of trusting the wrong story. And the price they paid, it wasn't some abstract idea. It was real. It was everything. We're talking life savings for Izzy, a whole career for Aaron, Solomon's business, gone. Eli destroyed a good man's reputation and his own peace of mind. And Miriam, she lost years of chances for real human love and connection. There's this one line that just perfectly sums it all up. Even though the lies were totally different on the surface, the wound they left behind was exactly the same. It was a wound of shame, of deep regret, of realizing you traded something real and true for a story that was never yours to begin with. Okay, so if the world is just packed with these loud, shiny, and totally false stories, what are we supposed to do? How do we even begin to navigate it? Well, the piece ends with some thoughts on how to find a little clarity in all that noise. And this really gets to the heart of it. The promises from these gurus and prophets and influencers, they're always loud, they're certain, they're urgent. That real wisdom, actual truth, it's usually quiet. You find it in the pause, in that moment of reflection, not in the frantic scramble to believe. So how do we actually hear that whisper? Well, it kind of boils down to a pretty simple toolkit. First, just slow down. Resist that pressure to react immediately. Give yourself a moment to breathe before you trust. Second, question things, not with cynicism, but with a gentle curiosity. And finally, get to know yourself. Understand what you hope for and what you're afraid of, because that's the soil where these wrong stories always take root. And that's really the question it leaves us with, isn't it? These stories, they're not just about other people getting tricked. They're a powerful reminder of the courage it takes to trust your own quiet wisdom when the whole world is screaming at you. So it's a challenge for all of us, really. In a world that wants you to just follow along, what does it truly take to think for yourself?